Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyana Habib Ilahi Rabbil Alameen Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad wa ala alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-masumin al-mazlumin wa la'anatu ad-da'ima ala adaihim wa ghasibi huquqihim wa munkiri fada'ilihim ajma'in min alan ila qiyami yawmiddin. Amma ba'd, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Question Time, a program that deals with the questions that are raised by our viewers, by Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, and the questions which are quite important to our communities, and we deal with that orderly. We would request you to mail your questions on Hidayat, and then perhaps we could deal with them. And in the future programs, we will be looking at the Islamic family law, and we will be doing questions in regards to the Islamic family law, and we would like to raise this issue and educate our communities how crucial and how important family law is, because our communities tend to practice Islam that is influenced by many cultures, many local laws, many local value system that they are brought up in, unfortunately, and we don't really implement the true Islamic laws, and that's where the problem comes about. Even when we look at the Sharia law in our British society today, unfortunately it's been criticized by the West, by many, that it is one-sided. It doesn't consider the female aspect of the communities or the female individuals, but it is only male dominant, and it kind of prefers whatever the man is saying. But unfortunately that's not the case. When it comes to Sharia law, when it comes to Islamic law, it is based on justice, it is based on adalat, and if it is implemented, justice is done. And the ignorance of the secular system, the ignorance of the Orientalists, the ignorance of even Muslims and Muslim scholars and intellectuals, unfortunately tend to interpret it or tend to understand it. Leave aside interpret, because interpretation comes later. Interpretation comes with understanding. But unfortunately, we are not on the level of even understanding to really interpret that. So there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings of Islamic family law in our community, and it is very much required that we raise this and increase the knowledge, the understanding of our community in regards to the Islamic family law. If you look at the nucleus, when we talk about family law, the first thing that initiates the family law is marriage. And as we all know, that it is through this marriage where laws come about, where a family is, because a family is formed. We are talking about family law. So it is the marriage. Because of a marriage, laws come into consideration, laws come about, laws are made, divine laws are made because of this. So it is the establishment of an Islamic family through marriage which eventually will provide us with Islamic family law. Now, obviously this marriage itself have rules and laws to it. So if someone wants to engage, indulge, entertain, embark upon a path of marriage, it is required that he makes himself aware of these laws of marriage that are there, and then take that step. For both, for male and female, unfortunately, we just jumped into it without understanding, and not only that, we face the criticism left and right that it is one-sided, the right of marriage, the mahr, and so on and so forth, or it's sometimes the mahr is looked in a negative way, that you are taking money in return of marrying. This is so cheap, for example, without having proper understanding. Now, as we know that marriage is something that is highly recommended in Islam, in hadith and riwayat, we have number of traditions that tend to say that a person who does not get married, he is not from me. It is one of the sunnah, the Prophet is mentioning that, right? A person who is married and he worship, it multiplies by 70 times his ibadat, right? The Quran also emphasizes, marry those among you who are without spouses. If they are poor, Allah's bounty will enrich them. So through marriage, barakah comes about. A person becomes rich through marriage. Allah's bounties will enrich. In one of the hadiths of the Prophet, those who think they cannot afford to marry or are fearful that they will become financially strained if they do, display an utter lack of trust in Allah. What a hadith! People avoiding marriage because they are afraid, they are poor, they will not be able to support the family. Yes, practically speaking, we have to really consider these things, but not to the extent that, that they become an impediment and a hurdle. The Prophet is clearly saying, the ayah of the Quran is clearly saying, Allah will enrich bounties. It is a lack of understanding. It is display of utter lack of trust in God if someone avoids marriage because of that. So it is promoting marriage. Islam is promoting marriage, right? I'm not looking into the philosophical, metaphysical, spiritual aspect of marriage here. I'm looking at it from a purely Islamic law perspective, not from philosophical perspective. That we'll deal with in some other programs, and we have dealt with it earlier in our previous programs as well. Encourage to marry early. That's another thing that we find in the tradition. The Prophet said, when a person marries early in life, Shaitan weeps and says, vow upon me, for they have acquired religious immunity. Immunity is through marriage. See how much Islam is encouraging marriage to take place. Now, let's look at the Western secular law. They don't promote marriage. Rather, the Western community today demotes, doesn't encourage. Why do you want to become responsible when you can have a partner, not get married in court, just live with a partner? You make money, she makes money, you live like animals, for instance, right? I'm not saying that those who doesn't get married are animals, but I'm saying that, it doesn't really encourage marriage. It encourages to have some sort of partnership which is not considered as legal in the eyes of church, or even sometimes even in the eyes of the secular law. They just live together without even having a court marriage, at least, right? They will not get married. Some of the leaders, they practice like that. I remember when Ed Miliband, the leader of the MP, he got married after being with the partner for a very long time. A leader of a country, this is pointing out to that it is not really promoting marriage if someone behaves like that. But in religion, but in Islam, we see how much marriage is promoted. There's something spiritual about it. There's something unique and special about it. That God promotes it, Prophet promotes it, the Islamic culture and Islamic values promotes it. But unfortunately, the secular culture and values, they don't entertain marriage. They would rather have illegitimate children out of wedlock, without a wedlock, then there is some sort of spiritual negative energy, some negative energy with these children being out there who are illegitimate, who are born out of wedlock, which was frowned upon by the very West before Renaissance, right? It was something which was illegitimate and wrong according to the communities. So they don't really promote. But Islam promotes it. Now, one have to be very wary before one engages, before one enters marriage. What are the rights of a wife? If he is getting married, what are the rights of a wife that he should be aware of? Either if before getting married, or now that he is married, he should be aware of it as well, so that when he is with his spouse, he should be wary of these laws, that he doesn't trespass, that he doesn't take it for granted that because I have got married to her, she is my wife, then I should really do or say, or I am the man of the house. Excuse me. Islam says something else. Islam is a religion of justice, right? A husband is required to provide his wife with all that is needed for her to live at an appropriate level. The housing that the husband is providing must be at the appropriate level. This includes all basic necessities such as food, clothing, accommodation, furnishing, cleaning, materials and heating, etc. She should live the same way, the comforts that she had. She must have the same comforts when she goes to the husband's house. Well, you might be questioning me right now that, Maulana, you just mentioned that, if you are poor, get married, it doesn't really matter. Well, Islam encourages marriage. Islam encourages Salatul Layl, night prayers. Islam encourages fast. But at the same time, you have to look at your health. But at the same time, you have to look at your program, right? The encouragement is there. We have to prepare us. We have to have sahri. We have to have that health to limited amount even, right? They say fasting, they say that, you fast and then you are unable to do so, then you have to break it. Not that from the beginning you say that I can't do it, no, right? So the same way, there are some rights which have to be discussed. One have to really be very open about this. I am unable to provide the same house. Will you agree being my spouse in the future? Right? Then take that step. But now we are looking at the rights that a wife have, that one have to be careful about. A husband is also required to meet the subsistence, nafaqeh, First was the accommodation, the furniture, cleaning material, heating, appropriate level according to the standard of the wife. He has to provide that. This is the Islamic law. The secondly is the subsistence, the nafaqah. Now in subsistence, you have travel and other expenditures as well incurred on his wife's legitimate travel. If she travels for a vacation in the house of the father, the husband should provide that when she comes to the house of the husband. Legitimate travel, not illegitimate, with the permission of the husband in a proper place. This is the right of your wife. There is no rule of thumb or fixed limit for maintenance. Incomes and customs vary, and quality and prices differ from place to place. So there's not like, okay, Islam have said the husband should spend 500 pounds a month for his wife. I'm sorry, it doesn't say anywhere. Or Islam says that the husband must give 2000 rupees every month to the wife. I'm sorry, it doesn't say. So there is no fixed limit as such. It's variable. It depends in regards to the status of the woman, in regards to your status as well, of the husband, where one is living. All of these things really matter, brothers and sisters. In which area you're going to buy a house, in which area you're going to keep her, in which house you're going to keep her. These are the rights of the wife that one have to be very careful about. Unfortunately, we see that we live, or the culture that we come from, the background that we have, we trespass, we step on the rights of sisters, of women, and we step on them by the name of Islam. Unfortunately, a husband may not ignore or neglect his wife's sexual needs for periods of more than 4 months. Some jurists limit this right to younger wives. If the wife is younger, there is more desire or whatever dictates. The husband cannot ignore that. One have to fulfill the sexual desires of the wife. It is not only whenever man wants. Unfortunately, we tend to think that way. We have to be very careful. This is one of the key success of a marriage, which is a taboo, which is not discussed, is a sexual relationship. I'm sorry to say that for our elders who are there, many who will be watching the program with the family. But brothers and sisters, there's nothing to shy. We are talking about Islam, and it is important. The experience that I have, the divorces that I do, unfortunately, the community that is suffering, the high amount of divorce that we see, one of the main reason that we find is the dissatisfaction, unsatisfactory amount of sexual relationship, which we do not discuss. We don't see any books about it. We don't really talk about it. We don't have private sessions in our communities, in our masajid, to really discuss these things. The adab of it, how to do it, when to do it, what the Prophet have talked about it, what the riwayats have talked about it, what the imams have mentioned about this. Does anybody focus on this? We are not. Fine, do not discuss this on television, because many elders are there. It is a think that is something to shy about. Yes, no doubt about it. One have to be very, very, very careful about these things. It should not be spoken in public, right? Sexuality is something that is not spoken in public in Islam. Any type of sexuality. It is done something in the private. But it is something that we need to focus upon. It is one of the laws in Islam, in marriage, that needs to be taken care of. I will stop there in this regards. A wife's own wealth has absolutely no bearing on her absolute right to maintain by her husband. The property, the money, the work that she is doing, it is hers, nothing to do with husband. Can we see this right given to a woman in the Western society? It is not. It is shared. The family, they do it together. Isn't it so? Right? A husband is not permitted to abuse, harm, mistreat his wife in any way, shape or form, verbally, physically. He can't be grumpy, bad-tempered, ill-natured. Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein alayhi salam says that, this hadith from Risalatul Huquq from Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. Let me read this hadith. It is the right of your wife, whom Allah has made your peaceful comforter and friend, to shield you from sin. Further, it is incumbent upon you to thank Allah Almighty for having provided you with a partner, and to remain constantly aware that she is a mercy from Allah. Therefore, it is essential that you respect her, are considerate, gentle and kind to her. She has the right to your love and companionship, as well as the right to a stable home within which to fulfill all physical, psychological needs necessary for her well-being. If a person mistreats, ill temper, abuse, verbal abuse the wife, how can you expect her to be psychologically secure, have well-being in the house? Unfortunately, many of our Muslimeen, brothers tend to do this. They tend to abuse their wife. And the sad part is that they abuse it by saying that Quran have asked. Have you really understood what the Quran is saying? You have no right at all. What sort of, the Quran talks about beating. When? What? What is it? Have you understood that? You have taken for granted. It requires a deeper understanding of that verse. What is that verse talking about? What type of beating it is really seeing? When you hit a little child and if it goes pink, you have to pay kafara. You have to pay diya for that. Now, how can this law be contradictory to the Quran? So we got to be very careful. The right of the wife is that husband is not permitted to abuse, harm, mistreat, disrespect in any shape or form. So therefore, it is quite important to be aware of this. I think we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. I think we went a bit over the time, but we'll continue on this subject of Islamic family law. Stay with us.